Let's play a quick game. Who's more insecure? Is it the country where you can roast the president on late night TV and still get invited back next week? Or is it the country where one spicy comment turns your whole life into a special administrative process? Well, you already know the answer. Only one of them needs surveillance. Tonight, we're talking about China. Human Rights Watch 2026 World Report describes a government that tightens control at home and extends its intimidation beyond its borders. Inside China, the atmosphere shifted even further towards fear and control. Writers faced charges so vague that the legal definition was basically vibes. Editors got investigated for publishing things that made the authorities look bad. Activists were treated like security threats for organizing, speaking, or refusing to stay quiet.
Tsai Jiawei is a Chinese dissident living in the US. Even while he's in America, Chinese authorities have tried to silence him by pressuring his family at home.
这两个警察到我家里来，然后就是我爸爸跟他迎接出来了嘛，看到两个人过来了嘛，然后就是他第一句话就是我是为你儿子的事情来的。
In America, if you criticize the government, you get a podcast. In China, you might get a visit that starts with, "We just want to talk," and ends with you canceling your weekend plans forever. Human Rights Watch describes how flexible charges can turn ordinary speech into a crime. That creates fear because people cannot predict what will be punished and what will not be punished. The report also describes tighter pressure on religious communities through state-controlled campaigns.
这些当官的上权的一句话，就把我们的生命的价值给掉了。如果你知道我们的这个的痛苦。
It describes intense surveillance and forced assimilation affecting minority communities, including Tibetans and Uyghurs. When the government treats disagreement like a threat, society turns into one long group project where only one person gets to speak and everyone else just nods. Now, here's what Americans need to focus on. This is not only about what happens inside China. This is also about what happens to people living in the United States. If intimidation and surveillance target people on American soil, it becomes a US issue. It hits safety, privacy, and free speech. And it can create a chilling effect where people in America start whispering like they're in a library, except the librarian is a foreign government.
Today, we are announcing 3 impactful cases from my office in our nation's fight against the People's Republic of China's transnational repression activities. The first 2 criminal complaints that I am announcing shed further light on the extent of the PRC government's efforts to project its authoritarian worldview on the residents of this city and this country.
We do not have to guess what this looks like. We have a real case. Alysa Liu is a Chinese-American figure skater, born and raised in California. She started skating at 5. She became a national champion as a teenager, and she built a reputation for staying calm under pressure. At the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics, she delivered something historic. She won 2 gold medals, including the women's singles gold. That women's singles gold ended a 24-year drought for the United States. The last time the US won women's singles Olympics gold was 2002. So yes, America finally got the gold again, and nobody had to storm a Capitol, flip a car, or blame Taylor Swift. Now, here's the part that explains why the story matters beyond sports. Alysa's father, Arthur Liu, is a political refugee and longtime Chinese descendant. He says he took part in the 1989 pro-democracy movement, and he believes the Chinese government has kept tabs on him for decades. As Alysa began rising towards the 2022 Beijing Olympics, Arthur says the attention intensified. In October 2021, the FBI contacted him and warned him about a potential espionage scam targeting his family. Arthur says he kept that from Alysa at that time because she was 16 and focused on training. He says he did not want her preparing for the Olympics, but also worrying about spies. because that is not exactly a great pre-competition mindset, you know. Arthur says that in November 2021, a man reached out and presented himself as connected to the US Olympic Committee. The request was specific. He asked for passport numbers and passport information for Arthur and for Alysa. Arthur later learned that the same man had been showing up in the Bay Area, trying to gather private information. What? Neighbors told Arthur they recognized him from seeing him near Arthur's office hallway more than once. Arthur also pointed to details that later surfaced in court filings. Those messages discussed money in exchange for passport details, including how fast the information could be delivered and how payment would be handled. To an American audience, that is the point. This was an attempt to collect sensitive personal data about US residents connected to a major international event on American soil.
So my father was one of the student leaders in the Tiananmen Square protests, and obviously he had to escape China, so he did, and he came to America. And he continued to organize protests here in front of like the Chinese embassies and stuff like that. And so, I mean, they continued to go after him. And when I came and became a figure skater and I was gonna go to the Olympics, yeah, they had sent like a couple spies to the US, not just for my dad and me, but like for some others as well.
There's one moment that felt almost unreal. After Alysa returned from a competition in Japan, her father took her out of the Bay Area the very next day. While they were already on the plane, the FBI called. The agent told him that the same spy who had been contacting them was on the way to his house. That was why he moved fast. He wanted distance between his daughter and anyone trying to get close. It sounds like a movie plot. The difference that, in America, a spy thriller is not supposed to be part of a teenager's Olympic preparation. The strange episodes did not stop there. During the Beijing Olympics, something unsettling happened inside the Olympic Village. Late at night, a young man approached Alysa, followed her, and tried to persuade her to go back to his apartment. She reported it to the US team leadership. When the team attempted to review the surveillance footage, the man did not appear on the video. No one can definitely explain what happened to that footage. What remains clear is that Alysa knew what she experienced, and she knew it was not normal. At the same time, another kind of pressure was unfolding. Before the Beijing Olympics, Chinese officials attempted to recruit Alysa to switch nationality and compete for China. The incentives being discussed were described as extremely attractive. The response was simple: no. Money was not the issue. Principles were. This is how influence works. Opportunity and pressure move together. An offer comes first. Then, proximity follows. In the United States, that has a name. It is harassment. It is not a complicated situation. Human Rights Watch describes a system that tightens control at home and extends intimidation beyond its borders. The Liu family story shows what that looks like when it reaches the United States. Alysa still competed. She still came home. And in Milan Cortina, she won double gold for Team USA. If the goal was to intimidate her family into silence, it did not work. What the world saw instead was the young American athlete standing on the podium with her flag. That is the difference people should remember. In the United States, your talent speaks. Your government does not decide what you're allowed to believe. And no foreign government gets to decide how your story ends. See you next time!